Yo, Ryan Hart here. Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast channel. These are the interview sessions where I put my curious questions to inspiring people with one goal in mind, to help you be better than you were yesterday in your heart and in your mind. While you're here spending time with us, I'd love it if you subscribed, leave a like, or maybe drop a comment below with letting us know some of your thoughts on the interview. Please do share it with someone that you'd love to help be better too. Steve, I'm so glad that we've made time for you to come on the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great this morning, Ryan, and I'm just so thrilled to be here and to see you in person. It's wonderful.
It's great, isn't it? And I guess the reason why we're saying that is because you and I connected via Clubhouse, and let me share a story around when we first came across. I think we were in a room with a good friend, Heather Parody. I think she was connected with your son. She'd interviewed your son previously. And I think, was the first time we connected the day of the Capitol building? Was it that day? Or was it before?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And we had an amazing conversation about hope and what brings us hope. We were flipping the script around what kind of the media was saying around our future. And you just shared some insights around leadership that just reminded me that there are there are other good people out there doing great things, have a great heart for leadership. And I just couldn't wait to have you come on the show and hear more about you and your story and how someone shapes such leadership values that you have. So welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks so much, Ryan.
I'd love to hear more about your leadership story, your leadership journey, and how does one shape the values with which you bring to leadership right now?
Well, sure. So I've worn lots of different hats in my life. And so I'll start with my give back leadership. I have always thought that life was more than just going to work and coming home and, that type of lifestyle. And so at a very early age, I got involved in nonprofit work. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. I liked the idea that somebody or something might be needing to be done, or somebody needed hope, or somebody needed help. And I said, You know what? I can do that. I've got the time. I might have the means or the resources. And so I started my journey, if you will, just getting involved with nonprofits. And I guess some of the folks that I was involved in saw something in me that said, this guy has some qualities that we can take to lead us, if you will. And so I learned what to do to make sure people can be seen, that people can be heard, to be grateful, to show empathy. And quite frankly, I just spent a lot of time thinking about those things and what can put me in the light in someone's eyes to say, let me help you get to the next level, whether it's in business, whether it's in nonprofit, whether it's in family. And quite frankly, I've just started building off of that over the years. And on the nonprofit side, I worked my way up into some chairmanship roles with some various organizations. On the business side, I worked myself up to, heading up divisions within banks and other companies. And to me, it's a little bit of a mindset, but I never, ever, Ryan, went by the title of leader. I don't like to call myself a leader. I don't think that's fair. I'd love for you to think of me as one, but I don't want to say, hello, everyone, I'm a leader. And for full disclosure, I'm not exactly sure what a leader is, simply because it means so many different things to so many different people. And I just try to be in the moment. And what an organization for nonprofit needs might be very different than the qualities that a bank might need or a different organization might need. So I've also learned to adjust and adapt and wear the right hat to make sure I'm fitting in to where I am. And I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the best conversations we've had, or that I've heard you share your ideas on, is success. And what's your take on success?
Yeah, I can't stand the word, quite frankly. And the reason I can't stand the word is, once again, it means so many different things to so many different people. So the first thing I tell people is I want the definition of success to be mutually agreed upon. Because if Ryan's thinking success means this and Steve is thinking success means that, it's not mutually agreed upon. And the best example I'll give you would be in the corporate world. Is success getting to the top of the ladder and being the CEO of the company? Is success the opposite? Not getting to the top, which sometimes might mean working 20 hours a day, traveling all over the country, all over the world, the pressure and the tension, and not that that's not the case with everybody. Success might be to someone else I leave my job when it's over. I come home and see my family, and I have dinner every night. And I might be coaching my son or daughter's sports team. And I might be taking walks at night, if you will. And I know I'm being dramatic, but what I don't like is if you're judging me by success in the corporate world, you might think less of me. If you're judging me by success in the nonprofit world, you might think less of me. If you're judging me financially, and my best example is I know a ton of people, unfortunately, their measurement of success is financial.
Yes.
The size of your house, the size of your car, what you can spend money on, all the food
Yep.
on your table. And that bothers me when it's not my definition of success, because those people may not have great family life. Just because you're traveling the world, eating the best food, driving the nicest car, doesn't mean you're a good or a nice person.
Mhm.
If it makes you happy, I'm thrilled. And if it's your definition of success, I'm more than thrilled. But it may not be mine or yours. And that's my challenge, is the way all of us, just have different definitions of it. And again, I think that's fine. I just want there to be a mutually agreeable respect, so that, Ryan, if you say it's this and Steve says it's that, I respect you for your opinion, and
Mm.
hopefully you'll respect me for mine.
And we're talking at an individual level, and I guess it's even harder when we go into workplaces where there are cultural values placed upon those things.
There are. And as I said, I grew up in corporate America. And unfortunately, part of the mindset with many is, how do I get to the next level? And the perfect example, there are many that think that working so many hours is that, okay, that's how I get it. And
Mm.
what I've learned is that might be the case in some companies. And yet sometimes it's simply who you know.
Mm.
Ryan, if you and I work together and you start moving up the corporate ladder, and then you say, you know what, I know Steve, we've worked together. He's got some, great skills at work. I might, because of you, be brought up the rung. And so, that concept of sometimes it's who you know, skill sets. Again, I think you and I have been around the block long enough to know it looks a little different everywhere you turn. And as long as everybody's got that same lens that sees it the same way, I'm in good shape. And that's where I kind of fit in better.
Mm. You use the word empathy in our conversations. Why is empathy such a powerful word in your leadership heart set?
It's everything. I learned long ago, and to this day, I truly mean it. Empathy is what drives me, because it truly is all about the people. And I really don't care where you are, who you are, again, business, nonprofit, religious, etc. It's all about the people, connecting with the people, understanding the people, making sure they understand you, communicating the right way, knowing what they're looking at. Everyone wants to be seen, and everyone wants to be heard. We've heard that millions of times now from so many incredible people all over the world that are in personal development. And I've lived by that. And so again, when it's a product or a service that you're selling, if it's an organization that's looking for volunteer help, it truly is all about the people. And I focus solely on them. And when you have the right people who feel wanted, needed, and heard, you get the best results from them.
Mm. I think the legacy of a leader is the leaders that they create, and your son's making his own mark now. He's a leader in his own right in the space with which he's in. I'd just love to know some of the ways that you have led. You talked about in the home, and parenting is equally as an important leadership role and responsibility. I'd love to know what it's been like for you in your parenting journey.
Sure. It's been an incredible challenge, to be quite
Mm.
frank. When you have a son who is so physically different, I can control what I do, and I can control my partnership with my wife as to what we can do inside of our home. Outside of our home, it's a totally different thing. I
Yeah.
can't control people staring, when somebody's physically different. I can't control when people are bullying. And unfortunately, there are some mean people out there that
Mhm.
say mean things and do mean things. And with the rise of social media, it's made it even worse. Ryan, when I grew up, bullying, because there was no social media, was done face to face. So
Mhm.
if someone didn't like someone or said something, it was to their face. If and you knew who it was. With the world of cyber, you don't know who it is. The laws, quite frankly, protect those that perpetrate the crimes versus the victims, as we've lived through. And so my wife, Sylvia, and I, first focus on what we can do inside of our home. And inside of our home, we were able to set the ground rules like any parents, and then adjust to what physical challenges. And for those that don't know the story, my son was born with a very rare form of dwarfism. He stands 3'9". He's one of 84 documented medical cases of that particular condition. So there was no game plan. And Ryan, there's no playbook. Oh, you have a son or daughter with some challenges. Here's what to do. Turn to page 3 and look at the second paragraph, and here's what you do. It's not like that. So you adapt and you adjust and you figure out what you need to do to protect your child and make them as loved and fulfilled as you can, knowing full well the obstacles out there are not in your favor. And so what we simply have done is, I don't know if that's leadership versus survival. And my wife and I say the same thing. And again, I'll be fully transparent with you. We did the best we could under the circumstances. And yet, that being said, I hope it's okay. Brandon turned out okay. He's an incredible leader. He's a thought leader in the world of diversity, equity, inclusion, on disabled people's rights, on personal development, and himself on empathy. His platform's built on elevating empathy. And I hope some of what I've shown has rubbed off on him. But I will also commend him. He's done a lot of work himself, and he's gone through counseling, and he's gone through more at 21 than most people have literally done in a lifetime. And so part of it was just setting an example and trying to be, quite frankly, professional in the home, trying not to break down, because trust me, it's pretty easy to break down when you're a parent and you see your son or your daughter going through other challenges. And again, you just stick within your partnership. If you have someone at home, you, as we put it, we have an amazing A-team that we've surrounded ourselves by, friends, extended family, etc. And it's nice to see that they were so helpful in offering comfort to say, what can we do to help you?
Yeah, I love that. Where does your humility come from?
You know what? I don't know. I learned long ago that I'm just going to do what I think is best. And I can't compete in certain circles. And quite frankly, I have chosen not to. And, back to that success thing, I chose, Ryan, for example, to live in a community that I like, not where there perhaps might have been better opportunity. I chose to not, quite frankly, stay with a certain company years ago where they would have required me to travel across the country, which at the moment, because of Brandon and my daughter, Brooke, I didn't think was appropriate to say, hey guys, we're going to pick up now 2 years later and move to here, here, here. Again, fine if people do. Please don't, I don't want to criticize that. It just wasn't right for my family. And so I basically decided, here's who I am. That's it. Here's who I am. Here's what makes me happy. And I'm going to stick to my guns. So Ryan, if you're disappointed that I'm not the CEO of a major mega corporation being interviewed on your podcast, I'm sorry. My name is Steve, and here I am. If you would like me to be wealthier so that I could donate to the charity of your choice, I don't have those means, if you will, based on choices that I've made. And back to, I made the decision of the definition of success for me. And that was to do my own thing and to draw my own conclusions of what happiness would be. And that's it. And quite frankly, we all want to be seen and heard, including me, but I'll stick to my guns so that if somebody doesn't see me and doesn't hear me, I'm not going to do anything different than be true to myself. I hope others follow in that, because that's really, to me, creating the balance. And someone like you, there are very few people I've met that simply lead from the heart. And that's, quite frankly, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's the true definition, right? Of I'm leading from the heart because it makes me happy. And that's where it comes from. I don't want to be in the rat race. And again, I also have realized, and what I love best about my circle of friends, no one judges. No one judges, right? I don't care that shirt, how much it cost. I don't care the domicile that you live in. I want you to be a good man and a good person. And if that's the case, we'll be friends and we'll be colleagues and we'll stay in touch. And if you're not, then that's not the type of person. And I think what I'm most proud of, I have stuck to my guns, and I don't deal with people that I don't care for. I don't chase you on business if you don't see value of doing business together. I move on. I respect that's how you think, and I move on.
Well, the irony is this is exactly why I brought you on the podcast. I don't need you to be anything other than yourself. And I think when you start to lead from a position of understanding your own values, you see that in other people, and that was why it was so refreshing on that Clubhouse call. Is like, here's a guy that's speaking my language. He's saying things. I just like you know your people when you experience it.
Sure.
We are both raising Brooks. I have a Brooke. She is 6 years old. My experience of raising a Brooke is challenging me to be a better father every single day. What's your experience of raising a Brooke?
So my daughter Brooke is an amazing young woman. Uh, and the challenge is, you mentioned my son who had a physical challenge. Brooke, our firstborn, had no physical challenge. And quite frankly, the challenge that we're having and had is it's hard to be the sibling and to be the
Mm,
daughter of someone in a household that quite frankly gets attention from the outside world just because.
yep.
My daughter is amazing. She was the homecoming queen of her high school. She had a great college career. She's got a wonderful job. She's the type of human being that sat with kids at lunch that were sitting by themselves,
Mm,
not for community service and not because she had to. She wanted to. So talk about a legacy rub off. I hope she saw some of that in her mom and I. And
mm,
I hope she felt that it was nice to do as a person. But quite frankly, it's hard raising a kid in today's world as well, Ryan, whether
mm,
it's, in England or in the United States, the outside world with drugs and social media and wanting to be to the next level. Thank God my daughter was a grounded, incredible individual. But the flip side is she lived with a brother who just garnered significant attention from the outside world and had medical challenges. We had hospital stays where she had to, go spend time with extended family.
mm.
That wasn't getting rid of her. That was if to say, go have fun and not worry about all the challenges, if you will.
Yep.
But it's hard. Internally, we always made a point to make sure she felt as part of this family and team as you can. But again, externally, it was hard to do. The good news is she turned out to be an amazing woman, and we couldn't be prouder.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And not all marriages would have survived the challenges that you must have faced. Like, how do you reflect back on that now?
Yeah. Same thing as any partnership, constant communication,
Mm,
constant expectation setting,
mm,
continually thinking of trying to, be positive and proactive.
mm.
But you hit the nail on the head. Marriage is hard under any circumstance, right?
Mm,
Marriage, you got to make work. Marriage, you can't let outside factors, affect that partnership or relationship. Now,
mm,
the good news for me, I was a little bit older when I got married, and I knew what I wanted. And I also didn't have any baggage. It wasn't a rebound love affair. I met someone who quite frankly, I tell the story. There was a feeling I had when I met Sylvia that I've never, ever had before. And I dated a lot. It was being comfortable. I was comfortable. I was relaxed. I was myself. There was no pretending. And it just felt right. And again, there was nothing pushing me away from anything, nothing to make me run from a woman who didn't have this or didn't have that, if you
mm,
will. It was comfortable. But it's been a constant, work. And it's, again, looking for outside help from friends and family when needed,
mm,
taking care of ourselves. Sylvia has been involved in personal development these last number of years, which has been a huge help.
mm,
Again, raising kids, and I don't know how old your kids are, but when they get into the teen years, it is tough. And
mm,
again, it's making sure that you guys are on the same page. And I think we
mm,
were, but I also don't want to, say it was all, rose petals on the ground.
mm,
Absolutely had our share of challenges and absolutely worked, through them like most, married couples should be doing. It's easy to run. It is easy to run, and it's easy to say, I'm not going to deal with this. We chose to jump into the fire when there were issues as opposed to running from anything. But trust me, it is work, and it's constant work. And just
mm.
so that I don't mislead anyone, it's work now, right? It
Yep.
doesn't, right? The challenges don't go
Yep.
away. The changes in life don't go away. It's constant.
Yep. True story. 5 years time, I will be a parent of a teenager. My eldest is 8 and my youngest is 6. So, very much in the middle of homeschooling here in England. As I said before, very much the lockdown look and the homeschooling look is being worn at the moment.
Um, you talk about how you felt seeing your now wife, but it took 95 blind dates to get there. What what's that story?
It did. So that sounds like a lot, but so here's the deal. So I realized back in my, I guess, mid 20s, it was so much easier to get set up by friends and families and people you meet than it was to find them elsewhere. So my claim to fame and what you should be proud of me of, those 95 blind dates, they were no internet, no social media, no Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. The only technology out there was an answering machine to leave messages on. So what happened was I just put the word out to people I knew and met. Listen, if you know someone who is looking to meet someone, and if as a potential partner, I would love for you to introduce me. I wasn't obnoxious about it. What I loved, Ryan, is I never got rejected because it was already set up. I also had great expectations. I was looking to meet someone nice. That's it. I didn't say she had to be this or that, if you will. I kind of said, look, if they are unattached, if they're looking, if you will, I said, obviously, certain, stipulations that I shared with people. But outside of that, I just wanted to be a nice person. How bad could a date be with a nice person? And that's why people have these mismatched expectations. Oh, how pretty is she? Or, how wealthy is she? Or what does she do? None of that, if you will, because I also did some self-analysis. I think I'm a decent man. If they're looking to meet a decent man, here I am. So anyway, I put it out there, and it was amazing how that network worked. People loved setting me up. Their cousins, their friends from school, their colleagues at work. The joke I will have for you is I'm also amazed with certain people. They had no sense of geography. So I would be set up with people literally all over the country. Oh, I have a niece in, Oklahoma, or my cousin's in Fort Lauderdale, or a good friend in San Diego. It was like, hey, folks, I'm in Virginia. But I literally, I joke with people. I think the Dakotas are the only two states I didn't have dates in. That's a joke. But my point is, it just worked out great. And again, no rejection. They were pre-screened, right? So I knew. So if they would have said, she's 85 years old, I said, that no offense to that age, it's probably a little older than I'm looking for, that type of thing. Or she doesn't plan on staying here. She wants to live, in a different country. And if that wasn't part of what I saw as my future, I was able to also pass. And it worked out great. And again, I handled it well, had conversations. And Ryan, there was a good example too of a little bit of the success factor, because my routine was I'd call them first. Oh, Ryan said, I'm glad Ryan, wanted to introduce us. And quite frankly, if they weren't nice, and it happened 3 or 4 times, if they didn't have a personality that was warm, if they didn't seem interested, actually, I never went on the date. Listen, thank you. And quite frankly, not that it's good to not call back, but I didn't, because that wasn't a person I wanted to spend time with. I truly was true to form. I wanted nice, and I wanted personable, and I wanted a warm human being. And also, I wanted to make sure I was what they wanted.
How do you think, like everything you've just said, like I'm just seeing there's so much crossover to business and relationships and the way that, like, how have you taken that with you? Do you apply some of those principles?
I apply all of those principles, everyone. In fact, if you go onto my LinkedIn, I wrote an article about that, comparing the business world of networking to my dating experience. And it's exactly the same thing. It's putting the word out, getting you exposed, and I mean exposed in a good way.
Yeah.
It's sharing experiences, it's communicating, it's following up. It's following up. Hey, Ryan, do you remember you mentioned your cousin Sheila? Is anything happening with that? And I would do it in, again, a nice way. So it's learning how to communicate, how to put yourself out there. It's the overlap is amazing. It's also self-awareness, right? It's also looking for a prospect for sales, selling the deal, getting the deal. It's exactly the same thing, which is why I wrote that article, putting two together. There are bad ways to do it. And I'd like to think I've developed best practices, right? So that it's not obnoxious. I never said, hey, Ryan, I'm desperate. Oh, Ryan, you have to fix me up. Hey, Ryan, I got to meet your friend. It's like, I wanted not to be pushy, but I also learned to be aware and make you aware. Again, so you find out what follow-up techniques, you find out how to follow up. Sometimes it's a text. Sometimes it's a call, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a Facebook message. In today's world, back then it wasn't, but it's progressed into that. So quite frankly, you can't make a sale. If you see there's a blue sign that says sales statistics, you can't make a sale if you don't ask. And sometimes it takes 12 to 15 follow-ups and touches, to make a sale. And while I don't want to say dating is selling, the concept of meeting new people sort of is.
And with such experience as well comes the peace and the knowledge that the ego can just rest, because sometimes it's not about us. I'm sure there was a number of experiences where you followed up and they just had stuff going on, but in our own absence of stuff happening, oh, what is it about me? Do they not like, is that resonating?
Like you wouldn't believe, because we have something bad in our society, business and in dating. We don't know how to communicate no. We don't know how to say not interested. So what do? We don't respond. I can't tell you how many emails I send in business or looking to connect with somebody for a nonprofit partnership opportunity, and no response. And people don't necessarily say, Ryan, thanks so much, but we're not interested, or we're dealing with another company, or don't have the resources. People just don't respond. And of course, they'll say they're busy, and that is the case with many. But to say no to something legitimate, or to somebody that you were connected to, and it's the same thing with dating. Right now, when you're no longer interested, what happens in that relationship? In my experiences, you just don't respond. Because it's hard to say, Ryan, you know what? You're really not my type. Ryan, I'm looking for someone different, whatever the different might be, and we don't want to hurt your feelings. And so rather than hurting your feelings, of course, there's different ways to position it. We simply don't respond. And unfortunately, because we don't respond, what happens is the person doesn't know. Was I, not good looking enough? Was I not nice enough, rich enough? Did I live in an area that you had no interest in moving to? It could have been 1,000 different things. And unfortunately, it's hard. I wish we would be a little bit more empathetic into simply responding. And it's okay to say, I haven't figured this out. I'm working on this one, by the way. How do you say to somebody, Ryan, you are a fantastic man, and you have so many great qualities. It's just not what I'm looking for. And it would be nice for companies to do that as well, because not all of them say the same thing if you interviewed for a job. Ryan, you've got a great skill set. I love your background, but we've interviewed a few other candidates that we feel would be a better fit based on their experience, their knowledge, their background in education, etc. We don't do that as well as we should, because saying no has been challenging for so many people.
I'm trying to remember a quote. I think it's by a former CEO called Stephen Kelly, and I think he says that everyone deserves to be a rock star. Just this might not be your place to be the rock star.
Perfect. That's all. Right? And by the way, there is someone out there for everybody. And in employment, I tell people, and one of the things when I talk to people that are sad about a rejection from a job, or more importantly, a rejection from a potential partner, this is going to sound crazy, but I look at that as such a positive. And the reason I see it as such a positive is, why would I want to be with someone that has no interest in me? One of the things that I loved most about my wife is she seemed so interested in me. There was never, ever a moment where I had that awkward feeling. Does she like me? Is she interested? Should I call? It just felt right. So there wasn't that head game. And shouldn't it be that way with everybody? And as I've told anyone, then there's a breakup, it hurts. I get it. No one likes a breakup. No one likes getting a job declination, right? No one likes not getting the proposal. But the flip side is, I've turned that around, especially on the personal side, to say, you know what, if I'm not number one in their eyes and they don't see me as their partner, it hurts a little bit, but I'd like to get over that, because I want to be the person that you're crazy about. I want that company to say, Steve, oh my goodness, with your track record, you'd be so great working for our company. We'd love to have you, right? I guess it's feeling wanted. And the opposite of not feeling wanted and needed means move on. There's something better out there for you.
It takes a lot of faith.
Yes. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I just had a discussion with someone. She was upset about her son. He met a woman. The woman stopped communicating. And I said to her, I get it. It hurts and he's upset, but do you not see she's not interested? Ryan, if I wasn't interested in this podcast, I wouldn't be here. If I was interested in having a meaningful dialogue, I wouldn't be here. And hopefully you take that. Well, Steve rejected my request. He's not interested. Move on. There are other people that might be, that type of thing. And again, that chase mentality is something that I just don't believe that people should do in any parts of their lives.
Yeah. The way I communicate that to my community, is that we're all given gifts and talents, and they're not for us, they're for the one or the many in the world who already need it. And when you have that heart set that assumes that there are people out there,
That's
even
all.
if it's just one, even
That's
if
it.
it's just one.
That's it. It only takes one. Only
Mm,
takes one. And Clubhouse is a perfect example. This new platform of people, trying to position themselves as thought leaders or
hmm
industry knowledge, etc. And I'm being on Clubhouse who I am, which is me. I'm
mm,
not looking to, conquer the world. If somebody thinks I'm a thought leader in a certain subject, I'd love for
hmm
them to join any of the rooms I'm in and doing. And if they don't, let them be well. But these people that are out there that are setting false expectations or just
Yep.
trying to put them out, themselves out there. I struggle with that, by the way, in terms of
Yep.
these people that are experts, like we said earlier in our conversation.
Yep.
I really don't know what that means, but I
Yep.
certainly want you to call yourself an expert. I'd like to make that judgment of you.
When there are many people that do lead in that way, and it's not to say it's right or wrong, they will make success, whatever that means to them. But I guess that's when it comes back to your own integrity as a leader and your own values.
That's all. I'm learning, that with influencers, it's all about number of followers, that type of thing. And I get it.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that people are gaining them for the right reasons, not because they've done something bad and get followers, or they're leading you to a different mindset. That's all. To each his own. And to your point, I'd love to make sure that people are well thought out enough to know whom to
Mm,
follow,
mm,
whose words to live by, and who makes that impact that will help take them to the next level. I do encourage people, just like you said, learning until you die, as far as I'm concerned.
mm.
I'm getting on every day. I'm on webinars at my old age, still learning and picking up tricks and tools and best practices and all of these things. It's constant. And quite frankly, it is constant because of all the new technology. And right, you got to stay on top of everything. So I've made that a point of, trying to continue to sharpen the saw, as Stephen Covey said in his, 7 Habits book, because you need to.
I love that. I'm curious. There's so many awesome things in the background on the wall. What is one thing on your wall that you're really proud of?
Oh gosh. Well, I think the top there, the March of Dimes, which has been an organization so near and dear to me, my 30 years of a volunteer, and just finished my role as their National Volunteer Leadership Council Chair. I received a Lifetime Achievement Award, and that was so meaningful. I don't do what I do for recognition. I really don't. As a matter of fact, I put the plaques up just because it was an honor to get all of them. But I'll tell you the story of the best recognition that I got. When I received that award at this banquet, one of the young ladies who was born prematurely and spent 6 weeks in the NICU in the hospital came over and gave me a hug. And here's a baby that was not supposed to make it. And then at that time, she was 8 years old, bubbly, beautiful, smart, came over to give me a hug to say thank you. And better than any plaque you'll ever get.
Well, I hope that after 30 years of service, that you get reminded every day the impact of the leadership that you've shown. And yeah, I hope that you get that in return, because that's an incredible level of service. And I just hope that in some way life shows you the ripple effect that you'll have had.
Sure. Well, the true meaning of service is not looking for anything, but when you get something like that, or a note from someone that you made an impact in their life,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredibly meaningful. I also coach and teach people. We don't recognize enough. We
Mm.
don't recognize enough, especially in the volunteer world, and the people that go above and beyond. And it doesn't have to be financial recognition, a phone call, a little note, a small little gift, if you will. Those type of things are so meaningful. Don't give a plaque or an award because you have to. Say thank you because you want to, and make it meaningful.
I'm really grateful for your time. I'd love to know what what you think of the phrase "always better than yesterday."
I love it. That's it. It's, quite frankly, proactive, moving
Mm.
forward. And I think I learned a phrase that says, the only thing you should compare yourself is to who you were yesterday, right?
Absolutely.
Back to this whole discussion of where we've been through. Who was I yesterday? Can I be better today? And I love that concept. I love forward, moving forward, positive
Mm.
impact, etc. So anybody that has that mindset, I'm going to stick with.
Love it. Steve, thank you for your heart. Thank you for your mind. Really grateful for your time. I've really enjoyed spending time with you properly. And I'd just be honored if you can leave us with a final thought from your good self.
Oh, sure. Well, first, I wanted to commend you, Ryan. Not many people out there are putting people and empathy first like you are. So my final thought is I'd hope folks that are watching this podcast and around the world today will have that same mindset. You know, it's all about people. It's all about being empathetic. It's all about positive mindset. I love, this platform, and I'd love to think that if people had more of that mindset, we'd be an incredible place to be.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ryan.